Where did that number,
It was
that
just
like
a recommendation that was made in order to allow all the departments to share in some of the one-time funding.
okay, why is it not 5%? Why is it not 2%? Why?
Budget Advisory Committee recommended a 10%.
And why did they recommend 10%?
If I can, that is an issue that is the business of the college planning process.
Yeah, and I'm trying
And
to
they
do my
recommend it,
oversight job, Mr. Oakley.
and they recommend it to the board. The board can choose to not adopt this budget if it wishes. And we can go back to the Budget Advisory Committee. But it is part of the entire planning process that these recommendations come through from the departments, through the divisions, through the vice president areas, and then they're discussed and debated at the College Planning Committee and the Budget Advisory Committee. And so somewhere along the line, there are recommendations made as to how much, in addition to what's already been allocated, should be distributed to the rest of the departments. That is the business, quite frankly, of the departments. It's not our business to tell the departments how to spend that money once the recommendation is made and we allocate it.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that I can't ask what the rationale of the 10% was based on, or these numbers? Are you
I
saying
think
it's not my
she's-
business, my oversight capacity and my job?
Okay,
Okay,
I'm going
because
to
I just want to make
end
sure
my answer
whatever planning went into it, that I have an understanding of the rationale. Nobody's getting into the weeds, so let's just make that clear. If there's all this planning that's gone into, there's got to be some method and logic that was applied across the board, and that's simply what I'm trying to understand in order to approve. It sounds like it was a rule of thumb, or I don't want to assume, but let's move on to your other items on this page with the other outgo that you have here, and if you can elaborate a little bit on what that entails, what the increases were for.
The increase for other outgo, that's directly related to the one-time money that has been allocated to the capital outlay fund for scheduled maintenance projects.
And how much were they individually? For other outgo, how many are we talking about? What kind of categories? And how much per category?
So are you asking how we're spending the entire 4.4 million in other outgo, or are you asking what makes up the increase of where we were in 14-15?
Yes, I'm asking how much, what makes up the 4.4, and what was the basis for each line item that makes up the 4.4?
So as detailed out on page 21 of the tentative budget document, you can see there that the 4.4 million, there's 2.3 million going to the capital projects fund. That's for the scheduled maintenance money. That's the one-time funds coming from mandated costs. There's 150,000 going to the child and adult development fund. That is to help cover the cost of running the two centers that we have. There's $1.8 million going to the self-insurance fund, and that's to pay for our property and liability insurance as well as any claims that come up throughout the year. And then there's $110,000 that's going to the student financial aid fund for the return to Title IV district contribution as required by the federal government guidelines.
And are those amounts set? Is that how we came up with those line items, or what was the basis for those amounts that you just cited?
The scheduled maintenance funds were derived directly from our 5-year deferred maintenance plan. The Child and Adult Development Fund is what is needed to help make sure that that fund stays within a balanced budget. And then the self-insurance fund is based upon the rates that we have to pay for our property and liability insurance and an estimation of how many claims we may have. And then the return to Title IV district contribution, that's just an estimate of what we may have to pay out for that obligation.
Okay. So page 18 of the report. Under enrollment fee revenue, under local revenue, extension courses. So can you elaborate on that line item a little bit and what that's based on? Is it set fee for the units that is taken into account to come up with this line item, or how do we come up with that?
So for the tentative budget for 15-16, we have 0 budgeted for the extension course enrollment fees. That's because we are not offering any extension courses. We did receive $38,793 for our summer of 14 extension program that we did offer. And that was the program that allowed us to charge an increased tuition rate in lieu of getting funding from the state.
Which are we? Since it's 0, it means that we're no longer offering it.
Correct.
Okay, good. Same page, other local revenue. I just wanted to.
And Trustee Zia, just, you weren't here when that happened, but we charged these fees because we were trying to offer classes that we wouldn't otherwise have been able to offer, but now we don't have to offer them because we're chasing FTES. And if we can get to that level, we'll get more state funding. So that's the reason.
So for the other local revenue, what is that based on? I believe it's on page 18. What is that?
Other local revenue is our interest revenue that we receive from the county treasury for the cash that we have in there. It's our parking citations, it's transcript fees, or minor facility rental fees.
How much are the facility rental fees?
Most of our facility rental fees are in the Veterans Stadium Fund, but there's about, let's see, about $300,000 goes into the unrestricted general fund.
Okay. Is there a way we can maximize this amount and focus on other local revenue without putting the burden on the students with the parking citations, of course, with other areas that we can maximize our revenue in this category? Is there efforts being made, or what is our plan in that regard?
We are continuously looking at ways to maximize revenue. We are currently maximizing the revenue that we can get out of facilities. Recognize that these facilities are used by students and faculty and staff, so that we can't disrupt instruction or our athletics. So there's only so much we can do with the facilities rentals that we have, but we are always looking at more and better ways to develop the college in ways that generate revenue.
Okay, so you said we've already maximized it, but it seems like it's dipped from 2014, 2015.
The main dip is because we have the Los Coyotes property sale.
I gotcha. Okay. So page 20. Let's see. This is the professional services. Wow. Why is there such a big increase? Unless I'm the contract services under contract services and operating expenses. What's that about?
So as we mentioned, the $3.6 million in contract services and operating expenses is primarily related to the one-time funds for mandated costs. We've allocated funds for professional services related to professional development. We've allocated money for the communication plan, implementation, the website design, implementation. There's also $450,000 in there for election costs.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about just professional services of 1.24 million, the first line item. On page 20, not all the other line items, not the election, not all the items that you alluded to, but this number, why is it up by $866,000? That's quite a bit, 27%.
So again, the 866,000 for that particular line item is related to the one-time mandated cost fund money that has been allocated. That's where I said that we've allocated funds for implementation of the communication plan, the website design, professional development. That all falls under the professional services line item. So there's $600,000 of that 866,000 is one-time money that has been allocated.
So in
What's
other
an
words, we have
example- What's an example of professional development when you say that?
professional services.
You know, it could be anywhere. You know, the Lead Academy is one where we're paying speakers to come in. You know, any time it would be for the entire program to rent the facility that they're going to. You know, to hire the speakers, to pay for all of any of the professional development that may come in. So we haven't quite determined how the entire allocation will be made. We do know that, you know, we've done the Lead Academy, but there will be much more to come that will be planned throughout the year.
Yeah, but how much was the Lead Academy? I think it was pretty insignificant, right, compared to this amount. Does anybody know how much?
Lead Academy is supposed to be around 50,000.
50,000 compared to 4.124 million. So, I mean, I would just like to see if we can be a little bit more prudent and rigorous about spendings and try to keep that down. Of course, I'm supportive of the money allocated for professional development, but where we can curb some of the spending or cut some spending, that would be great.
Well, and just to be clear, Trustee Zia, the spending increase is directly tied to the one-time funding we're receiving in order for us to achieve some of the goals that we're being asked to achieve. So it is specific to some of these issues that have been discussed. We're not trying to find additional spending. We're trying to use the one-time funds through our planning process to fund those items that we either haven't been able to fund before, or else there's some new mandate that we accomplish X or Y goal.
I get that, and that the question I have is, why are we not going for the amount we're getting allocated, like, or essentially reimbursed, the 600,000 versus an 866,000 increase? Well, I mean, we could cut it down to the amount we're receiving for that mandated cost, but or am I missing something?
Yeah, I will say on the, you know, you indicated that 4.1 million is a lot of money to be spending on professional services. 2.8 million of that is that goes to the Long Beach Police Department for our security services. And, you know, we have 24/7 coverage here at the college. So the largest line item expenditure out of the professional services is for the security on campus.
And we do have a new trustee goal that talks about professional development. That's where the Lead Academy came from. And we've also said we want to improve communications between the board, well, actually all campus stakeholders, and I think that's in process.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you say it was 2.8 million for police?
Yes.
Could I just yield the floor so Trustee Archuleta has a quick
I
question?
just have a quick question regarding the one-time dollars.
Yes.
The one-time dollars, are we obligated to use them within the one fiscal year, or are they going to be allowed to be rolled over?
No, they can be rolled over, and so that's
So we can-
yeah. You know, and a lot of these initiatives, although we've allocated it for the specific purposes, I don't know that we will get it all done within the year. So what we don't get accomplished, if it's been allocated to that specific purpose, that will roll over
So
for that
professional
same
development can continue to be rolled
Yes.
over to subsequent years?
Yes, and that will be the discussions we have with, you know, I mentioned, I think we'll get at least another $4 million of, do we want to set that aside for future years, or do we want to try to allocate it all this year? So that'll be a discussion that we'll be having later on when we do figure out what our final number is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just for the benefit of the public, we did receive information that I'm asking about that after sitting through our Brown Act training earlier, we have to provide this to the public, so the public will get this information. So one of the questions...
Copies are available for the public over here.
So yeah, I think we should put it out there, and then for a public outside of this meeting, I would recommend that we provide it to them or on our website somehow, as we're required to by law. So I noticed in the spreadsheet that you gave with the breakdown, and I really appreciate you providing this breakdown. And once the public get to see this, it exemplifies that we're exercising transparency. One of the things that I noticed, there was a $239,000 change in, increase in college advancement and communications. And I do see that we are receiving mandated revenue of $200,000 to offset that. So did we just get what we estimated last year and add the 200,000 to it, or why the increase there?
Primarily, 200,000 of that 239,000 are the one-time funds that's being allocated with mandated costs. The other 39,000 is just a rollover of what the adopted budget was, and so they're not spending everything that had been allocated this year. So that's why you see a little bit of a difference between what the estimated actual for 14-15 is and what the tentative budget is. We did not increase the budget in that area besides the $200,000 of the one-time money that was allocated.
Right, but we're going to be out 1,223. The deficit, the difference of the amount, it seems. And I'd just like to understand why that spiked a little bit. If there was any, is it the communication plan, or what, or is it this new? Perhaps you can help me understand before I go down and try to figure this out.
Well, what that is showing, we're estimating that we're going to spend $112,000 in the college advancement and communications area in 14-15. The tentative budget is $351,000. So there's an increase from the estimated actual to the tentative budget of $239,000. $200,000 of that $239,000 is directly related to the communication plan implementation that's coming from the one-time mandated cost money. The remaining $39,000 is not a budget augmentation, it's a rollover of their budget that they just did not spend in 14-15.
Okay. And then with Long Beach City College Police, so why did that increase by $116,000?
There were some vacancies that occurred this year that did not get filled, and so we're hoping that we'll have all the vacancies filled.
Is there additional public safety need that we need, or because it seems like our actuals were 2.7 million, and why are we budgeting for more than what our actual needs have been?
Again, the way we do our budgeting is the beginning budget is the same budget that you received in the adopted budget. So if we make augmentations, the augmentations primarily are coming from the mandated cost one-time revenue. We didn't really make any other augmentations to line item budgets across the board or anything. So what we did was we took the adopted budget from 14-15, we rolled that into the beginning tentative budget for 15-16. The reason that you're seeing an increase is because we didn't spend the full allocation in 14-15. We had a budget savings in 14-15 due to vacancies. So in 15-16, we're budgeting that they're going to have a full force and not have any vacancies throughout the year.
Also, just to clearly answer your question, Trustee Zia, the security force that is by contract is what we're budgeting. we're not increasing it beyond what the force that we requested is. There has just been a vacancy that was not filled in the current fiscal year that we expect Long Beach PD to fill so that they can provide us a full security force per the contract.
So this is for one person? Is that what a vacancy? Is that what the?
No, it's several vacancies that they had throughout the year. I mean, it's kind of just like with our classified staff, you know, we budget to have our classified staff filled, but we have people that come and go. The same thing happens with the police department.
I gotcha. Thank you. And then on page 20, same page, other services and expenses, I believe. I have a big wow sign next to this number of this change of 1.5 million. Can you help me understand why it's such a big spike or change?
Actually, the increase is $1,151,000, not 1.5 million, but
Yeah, I my astigmatism kicked in, so thank you for the correction. Yes, 1.15. I still stand by my wow comment of why this increased from 517,000 to 1.7 million estimated.
right. And again, 731,000 of that are the one-time mandated cost funds that were allocated, and then there's another 352,000 that was allocated for business process analysis within the student services area. Those funds were allocated in the 14-15 year. They were not spent in the 14-15 year, and so they're being rolled over into the 15-16 year.
Okay, so it's essentially the summation of the 517,000 and the 731 that we're going to get in revenue, roughly, would you say? The actuals that we have on 2014-15 that gets rolled over.
I don't understand the question.
So you were getting $731,000 dollars from the mandated revenue allocations. So the 1.51 includes that amount that we're receiving, 731,000. I wish it was million. And the rest is from last year that gets rolled over.
Yes,
What was
the
not
rest
spent?
is allocations that were made in the current fiscal year from one-time funds that were not spent. So those are being rolled over into the 15-16 year to be used for the purpose that they were allocated for.
Okay, and I see in this breakdown, which again is out there for the public to see, that what is this expense for $150,000 for general administration? The extra $150,000, which is a total of roughly $502,000 for general administration. What does that mean?
A piece of that is part of the amount for the business process analysis for the student support services.
What about the other piece?
Well, when I said a piece, the 351,000 that is for the business process analysis. 150,000 is under general administration. There's another 150,000 under the VP of Student Support Services.
Okay, you're losing me. So we have about $502,000 for general administration. And then we have $155,000 for VP of Student Support Services.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that $502,000 based on? Why do we have an increase of $150,000? That's separate from the VP of Student Support Services.
Right, but it's those two line items combined together that make up the 351,000 that is being utilized for the business process analysis. So those funds were allocated in the 14-15 year for that purpose, and they have not been spent, and so we're rolling them over into the 15-16 year.
Page 53. So I see this, the professional services, there's an $11 million increase. I'm assuming it's not really an increase, it's because we didn't use the funds for the bond funds in, that we originally have, or we have in our budget this last year, and it just gets allocated to next year. Is that the case here?
Correct.
Okay. And what's the rent, building repair, maintenance, and equipment repair? The increase of 468,000 based on?
Well, again, that's the balance of what we haven't used, but that line item pays for the the modular units that we have that we utilize for swing space.
Okay. And then earlier you were saying in your presentation, Vice President Gable, about the increases that we're getting, the awards that we're getting, but we're accounting for it, like for example, for SBDC, for the 10,000 small businesses, we're getting revenue or money allocated, but we're accounting for it in the expenditures as well. So I'm assuming that amount is pretty much offset, or am I assuming incorrectly?
No, yes, that's correct. So all of the grant and categorical programs, the revenues equal the expenditures.
In this budget. And then in the lastly, just a couple other questions. Where is the management salaries reflected? I know you've answered this
Salaries are
before.
reflected in the unrestricted general fund, so you will see those on
I figured as much, but as far as the line item goes.
page 19. It's under the academic administrator salaries, and then also the classified manager supervisor salaries and confidential salaries.
Okay, and what category is confidential salaries? Is that? I'm not.
Confidential salaries that are the individuals working within human resources as well as the executive assistants.
Okay, you'll have to educate me at a different time about that. And as far as our revenue goes, what would be what can we do to maximize revenue? I understand most of our revenue comes from the apportionments. And what percentage is that again?
About 90.
90% from the state.
Yeah, our total revenue is 121.3 million, and we are budgeting 107.4 million from the state. The quickest and easy, I guess easiest is not the proper word, but the quickest way for us to increase our revenue is to grow. Unfortunately, the way our funding is within the state of California, if you want to increase your revenue, you need to grow your FTES. That's not always an easy thing to do, but it is something that we strive towards.
All right. Is there anything we could do with generating revenue from other local revenue? There's other things that we're not at the mercy of the state. What are our plans to work on that? I know we've got about roughly about a $4 million deficit, or let's say $3 million deficit in the unrestricted general fund right now. What are our plans to make that up with other revenue that we can generate besides the state?
So let me take that question, because that's a larger question, and it'll roll into the board retreat. You have to ask yourself, what is the mission of the college? And the mission of the college is to graduate students, to transfer them, to provide support to the community through economic and workforce development. Those functions are not revenue-generating functions per se. We get reimbursed for them, but they don't generate revenue. And so student success, increasing the number of students that we want to have successfully complete courses, programs, certificates, degrees, and to transfer requires upfront investment.